I find your argument to be the ultimate bluff, and I am ordering your car impounded immediately. Imagine a judge saying that to you. For one man, a so-called traveler with a homemade license plate, that sentence was the sound of his entire legal theory collapsing in a real courtroom. So, how did he get here? How does a simple traffic stop spiral into a judge calling your bluff and seizing your car on the spot? Well, the story starts with a dusty sedan, a cardboard sign, and a dangerous myth. There are corners of the internet that sell a seductive idea, a get-out-of-jail-free card for traffic laws. The script is simple. You don't have a driver's license because you're not driving. No, you're a traveler, and you're just exercising your constitutional rights in your private conveyance. All you have to do is swap your state-issued license plate for a homemade one that says private, and suddenly, the laws everyone else follows just don't apply to you. This is the story of what happens when that online fantasy crashes headfirst into cold, hard reality. It all started on a Tuesday afternoon on Maple Avenue, a public road like any other. Officer Ramirez was on patrol when he spotted it. A grey sedan with something bizarre where the license plate should be. It wasn't metal, and it wasn't official. It was a piece of dirty, weathered cardboard with words scrawled in marker: private property not for hire, exempt. Ramirez hid his lights. The sedan pulled over. As he approached the window, he wasn't met with worry, but with a self-satisfied smirk. The man behind the wheel, Daniel Reeves, had a stack of papers waiting on his passenger seat, like he'd been rehearsing for this moment. The officer asked for a license, registration, and proof of insurance. Reeves shot back, "I'm not driving, I'm traveling. I don't need your corporate permission to exercise my God-given right to travel." Officer Ramirez, who had seen this script play out before, stayed calm. He simply noted the man's hands were on the steering wheel, the engine was running, and the car was on a public road. He ran the vehicle's VIN, and the results were exactly what he'd expected. No registration, no insurance, and a suspended license for Mr. Daniel Reeves. When the tow truck was called, Reeves started filming with his phone, protesting loudly that the officer was illegally seizing his property and would be billed $10,000. The officer just handed him his tickets and a date for his court appearance. As far as Reeves was concerned, this was his big chance. He was going to walk into that court and put the whole system on trial. Weeks later, inside a sterile district courtroom, the day of reckoning had arrived. Case number 24 to 1187, State versus Daniel Reeves. Charges: operating an unregistered motor vehicle, no proof of insurance, and displaying an unauthorized license plate. "All rise," the bailiff commanded. Judge Harper entered, her expression one of judicial neutrality. She had a packed schedule and had truly seen it all. Her gaze landed on Daniel Reeves, who stood not like a defendant, but with the defiant air of a guest lecturer ready to take the stage. "Mr. Reeves, you are the defendant," Judge Harper asked, her voice steady. Reeves cleared his throat. "For the record, I am a living man, appearing by special visitation. I am not the corporate fiction Daniel Reeves you see in all caps. I do not consent to these proceedings, and I do not grant you jurisdiction." A few chuckles rippled through the gallery. Judge Harper didn't blink. She just made a note on her file. "Your objection is noted for the record, Mr. Reeves. Nevertheless, you are here in response to a lawful summons. We will proceed." She went on. "The charges are operating a motor vehicle on a public road without valid registration, insurance, and with a homemade placard instead of a stated shit plate. How do you plead?" Reeves smirked. "I don't plead, as that would grant you jurisdiction. I wasn't driving, I was traveling in my private conveyance. These corporate statutes don't apply to me. I'll enter a plea of not guilty for you," the judge said, her patience already wearing thin. The prosecutor stood and informed the court the arresting officer was ready to testify. The stage was set. After being sworn in, Officer Ramirez recounted the traffic stop, confirming the cardboard sign, the defendant's claims about traveling, and the complete lack of legal documents. "Mr. Reeves," Judge Harper said, "do you wish to question the officer?" This was the moment. Reeves swaggered to the podium. "Officer," he began, "you stated, I told you I was traveling, correct?" "Yes, that's what you said," Ramirez confirmed. "So you admit, for the record, that I was traveling, not driving?" The officer was unfazed. "You were operating a motor vehicle on a public road." Reeves turned dramatically to the judge. "Your Honor, this is the fraud. According to Black's Law Dictionary, the 1910 edition, A driver is defined as someone employed in operating a vehicle for commerce. I wasn't in commerce. I wasn't for hire. These commercial statutes don't apply to a private man. They apply to corporations. His voice rose with conviction. I have a constitutionally protected right to travel. You can't turn a right into a privilege and then charge me a fee for a license to use it. He sat down, looking completely pleased with himself. A thick silence hung in the air. Judge Harper looked down at her notes, then slowly lifted her head, her eyes locking onto him. "Are you finished, Mr. Reeves?" she asked quietly. "For now," he shot back, "but I reserve all my rights, without prejudice." Judge Harper took a slow, deliberate breath. The show was over. The lesson was about to begin. "Mr. Reeves," she started, her tone disarmingly calm, "you are correct about one single thing. You absolutely do have a constitutional right to travel." Reeves's smirk returned, but it quickly vanished as she continued. "You have the right to walk from this courthouse to the Pacific Ocean. You can ride a bicycle, a skateboard, or even a horse across this entire nation. For that, you need no license, no registration, no insurance. That is your right to travel." She paused, letting the words sink in before her voice hardened. "But the second you choose to operate a 4,000-pound machine on public roads, built and maintained by taxpayers, you are no longer just traveling. You're engaging in a regulated activity. In this state, and in every other, the law regulates the operation of motor vehicles on public roads. Whether the statute calls it driving or operating, the act is the same, and it isn't limited to commerce." Reeves tried to interject, but the 1910 Black's Law, "Mr. Reeves," that just cut him off, her voice now sharp. "Black's Law Dictionary is a reference book. It is not the law. The laws of this state are written in our vehicle code, established by our legislature and decades of court decisions, not in a glossary that's over a century out of date. You don't get to cherry-pick an obsolete definition and pretend it erases the entire legal framework keeping people safe. Those statutes are for corporations," Reeves protested weakly. "Those statutes," the judge countered, leaning forward, "apply to all persons in this state's jurisdiction. By operating that vehicle on a public road in this county, you submit it to that jurisdiction. It is that simple." She let that sink in for a moment. "Let me be crystal clear. Driving a car on public roads is a privilege, not an unrestricted right. That license you refuse to get, the registration you won't pay for, the insurance you won't carry, those aren't fees for exercising a right. They are reasonable requirements to ensure that anyone piloting a multi-ton metal box meets a minimum standard of competence and financial accountability if they hurt someone. Your right to travel does not give you the right to endanger everyone else." The defendant's confidence had completely evaporated. "I don't consent. I reject your offer to contract," he mumbled, reverting back to his script. Judge Harper looked at him, not with anger, but with weary finality. "This isn't a contract, Mr. Reeves. It's not a negotiation. This is a criminal proceeding. Your consent is not required." The judge's voice turned formal and resolute as she delivered the final blow. "The evidence is uncontroverted. You operated an unregistered motor vehicle on a public road, without a valid license or insurance, and you displayed a fraudulent license plate. On all charges, I find you guilty." A gasp was heard from the gallery. "As for sentencing," the judge continued, "you will pay the maximum fines for each violation, plus court costs. And effective immediately, the vehicle you are operating, your private conveyance, is ordered impounded. It will stay there until it's properly registered, insured, and a licensed driver comes to claim it." Reeves jumped up. "You can't take my private property. That's a legal seizure." Judge Harper looked down from the bench. "Mr. Reeves, you came in here insisting on a difference between driving and traveling. I find your entire argument to be the ultimate bluff. And now, thanks to the choices you've made based on these debunked myths, you will be traveling ... home. On your own 2 feet." The bailiff's voice boomed, "All rise." As Daniel Reeves stood there, papers in hand, defeated and carless, he was the living embodiment of a hard lesson. When internet fantasies collide with the rule of law, the law always wins. What did you think of the judge's final ruling? Was it the perfect response? Let us know your verdict in the comments. And for more videos where legal myths get dismantled by courtroom reality, don't forget to like and subscribe.